Saturday at the Sepang International Circuit, we saw the start of round 3 for the Shed Advance Asia Talent Cup in 2016, the 5th race of the campaign after 2 in Thailand and 2 in Qatar. Tom Edwards had gone down at turn 2, having been running in the top 10, but we had the Magnificent 7 fighting away once again at the sharp end. Kazuki Masaki had started on pole position, but any one of 7 could have won this race. Number 23, Andi Izdihar, had been one of 4 winners from the first 4 races, and he was looking to make it 2 in a row. He'd sat in 7th for much of the race, surveyed what was going on in front of him, and before we knew it, he was in the lead. Then Bahattin Sofoglu lost control at the last corner and wiped out Dennis Unju. That brought out the yellow flags. Those yellow flags were still flying when the top 7 got down to that modified turn 15. Izdihar had enough of an advantage, but there were big problems stopping for Ogura, winner of the first race of the season. And so it was Izdihar becoming the first repeat winner of 2016. The question is, can he do the double on Sunday? It's warm, it's very warm here in Malaysia. 33 degrees Celsius ambient temperature just a few minutes ago. Get ready for more action in the Shed Advance Asia Talent Cup for 2016, wherever you're joining us around the world, including live streaming here on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Greg Haynes and Steve English are with you, and we're ready for the 6th race of the season. And this is a 12-race campaign, and even my basic mental arithmetic will confirm that we will be at the halfway point of the season at the end of this race. Here's Alberto Puchten, the Asia Talent Cup director, the renowned talent scout. He's worked with the MotoGP Academy, of course, in previous years as well. A great rider himself in 500cc and up through the ranks in Grand Prix racing. And he really is steering the Asia Talent Cup in the right direction. That was confirmed again yesterday as the top 7 crossed the line, separated by just 1.3 seconds. Starting on pole position, though, is a rider who is yet to win a race this season, Kazuki Masaki from Japan, number 2. He was up there fighting for the lead for much of the race, and ironically, having been either first or second for most of the laps, dropped down into 6th position in the closing stages. It was Andi Izdihar who came through to take victory for Indonesia. Yamanaka 2nd for Japan, and Gerry Salim 3rd for Indonesia. Chantra, Ogura and Masaki were 4th, 5th and 6th, with Kuni inside that Magnificent 7 and completing that leading group. 15 riders finished the race, which means that all of the finishers did score points. And just to remind you, the scoring system is exactly the same as it is in the World Superbike and MotoGP World Championships, i.e. 25 points for the victory, 20 for 2nd, 16 for 3rd, and so on down to that solitary points for 15th position. Here's number 9, this is Ogura, a rider who is extremely exciting to watch. Hiroshi Ayama off here to the right-hand side of the screen, and he won here twice in 250cc, first on a KTM in 2007, then on the Honda in 2009. Just before going on to pick up the title that season in Valencia a couple of weeks later. I was chatting with Hiroshi Ayama this morning. He's been very excited to see all of the Superbike action here this weekend, and it's also the first time Hiroshi's been alongside the Asia Talent Cup in his role as advisor this season, because he wasn't able to get to the first 2 rounds in Thailand and Qatar. He's been very impressed, as has Steve English alongside us here in the commentary box. And Steve, you'd expect again another Magnificent 7 battle. We certainly hope that will be the case, but whether we'll have a repeat winner for the first time this season is another matter. Yeah,
definitely, Greg. I think that the main thing that we've seen so far this year is that group of 7 at the front has genuinely been just a cut above the rest of the field. They've got that little bit extra experience, and that's what makes the difference in this class. I think yesterday, whenever we saw Andi Izdihar become the first double winner of the season, it just shows that once you get halfway through the year, the cream starts to rise a bit to the top again. And within this group, obviously people like Chantra that we're looking at now, Izdihar, Gerry Salim, they've shown that kind of speed in each of the races so far this year. I think you look at people like Yamanaka and Ogura, both really strong riders and have shown good potential through the season as well, but now they need to step up and show again just consistently on the podium between this round and the next couple of races. And I think for what we're going to see today, probably have that 7 group out at the front again. I think when we saw yesterday a big group at the front and then a big gap behind them to the rest of the field, and it's kind of like we were talking to Alberto Puig briefly on Thursday actually, and it was pretty clear that while he thinks that there is talent the whole way through the field, it is a case of right now it's that experience that makes the difference, and that's why we're seeing people like Masaki, Izdihar, Ogura up at the front, and as we've mentioned before, Chantra as well, really impressive in Thailand and impressive in Qatar as well, in that lead group yesterday too, second in the championship now as well.
Super exciting to watch, isn't it? Just look back at Qatar 2 months ago. We had 5 riders crossing the line side by side in that one. And of course it's all about learning here in the Asia Talent Cup. Here is the single brake disc on the front of this Honda motorcycle. This is the previous Honda. This is the NSF 250R, which we previously saw in the World Championship, ridden by the likes of Jack Miller and Alexei Maspu a few years ago. Of course, the World Championship now with the NSF 250RW as opposed to the R. But it's all about getting to grips with the Dunlop tyres as well. The Asia Talent Cup originally started with Bridgestone tyres, but it made the switch to Dunlop to make it more of a natural transition through into the CEV and then into the World Championship itself. And as we've seen over recent weeks, they are making an impression. Kaito Toba, the 2014 Cup champion, only 7/10 of a second behind Lorenzo Dalla Porta in the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship race at Le Mans in France last week, Steve. And it just proves you can come up through the Asia Talent Cup. You start here in the selection event, and now Toba's gone on to finish second in front of a big crowd at Le Mans last weekend, in front of all of the Grand Prix riders and of course the team bosses. It is a clear path straight up in theory to the top of motorcycle racing.
Yeah, and I think when you look at even the crowd here today, Greg, we actually have a pretty big crowd here at Sepang for today's races, and a lot of that comes from the local interest that you see for Indonesian riders, Malaysian riders here, the Thai riders as well that we've seen in the Shell Advance Cup that we're racing in Chang, and it gives people an incentive to come here. It gives people an incentive to start watching the sport and to then start racing. And I think things like the Underbone Championship has definitely had a big impact here in Malaysia. That's where Khairuddin came from initially, and he was the first big export of that championship to the world scene.
Certainly was, and of course the big initiative now that they're looking to get into from this is what I mentioned before, the Moto3 Junior World Championship, running alongside of course part of the CEV, really spearheading the CEV in the modern era, and the Asia Talent team is now very much part of that championship with their stunning new livery this season. There's 4 riders making up the lineup there. Kaito Toba we've already spoken about, the Cup champion of 2 years ago. Nakarina Tirapuvapat is in that lineup. He's twice a race winner in this category. Masaki is in that lineup. He's twice a race winner and still racing in the Asia Talent Cup, of course starting on pole position there on your right hand side. And then Ayuma Sasaki, who's the 2015 champion. He dominated proceedings, won by over 40 points last season. And Sasaki, I think it's fair to say, the Japanese rider, Steve, who came up through the ranks in Japan, but of course he's only still very young anyway, in his mid-teens, seems to be the rider everybody in the Grand Prix paddock and indeed here in the World Superbike paddock is talking about at the moment as a real star of the future.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of the Grand Prix paddock especially, they're waiting for that next big Japanese star, the next big Asian star to really come through. And we've seen it this year already with Paui winning in Moto3, that there is that talent here in Asia again. There was definitely a lull for a long time when we lost a lot of Asian talent, whereas right now it looks like we're back in that, where the wave is starting to build again, and hopefully some of these kids from the Asia Talent Cup will actually be in the Grand Prix ranks in the next couple of years.
Interesting to see the red and yellow flag waving on the inside of turn 1. Now that means something's been dropped by one of the motorcycles. I can only imagine some oil or something has gone down on the initial sighting map to the grid. The grid incidentally decided by the half-hour qualifying session they had shortly before race 1 yesterday, and just like in World Superbike, which the Asia Talent Cup is supporting here in Malaysia this weekend, that half-hour qualifying session determines the grid for both races. What happened yesterday? Well, it was a remarkable finish. Izdihar winning in the end by half a second. Gerry Salim was third behind Yamanaka, and that increased Gerry Salim's cup lead from 3 to 6 points over Somkiat Chantra. Yamanaka, that's number 12, Ryushi Yamanaka from Japan, is third in the cup, 7 points behind, and with 25 points given out for a win, it means any one of 5 riders could leave this race and could leave Malaysia in the lead of the championship, down to Izdihar in 5th place. And the reason Izdihar is so far down in the championship, 10 points behind, despite winning 2 races, which is more than anybody else so far, is because he failed to finish in the first race of the season.
what I found quite interesting yesterday, Greg, was actually just, I'll tell you what, even on the warm-up lap, it looks like these guys are ready to race.
It's very close.
What I found interesting yesterday was how well all of the riders dealt with the changes that have been made to Sepang. Some pretty significant changes to the track layout, new track surface as well. We've seen gradients change for a lot of corners. The camber at the last corner changed a lot, and all of the riders dealt with it really well. But when you look at that last lap, everyone dived in towards the apex, hit the off-camber curve as well, and it's just a case of very easy to lose the front there. But everyone kept it upright, everyone got in and out in the same order. But I think today's race, this is where we're going to see guys really start to push on, and I think we could see a different kind of race from yesterday, even with the same people all at the front.
Incidentally, look at these red and white striped curbs on the left hand side as you come down into turn 15. They're all new as well for this 2016 spec Sepang. The first initial part of the curb is actually painted asphalt, which is all new as well this season, and then the curb itself has been modified. This is the 10th Asia Talent Cup race to be staged here in Malaysia, because this is very much the home of the Asia Talent Cup. Here then comes Kazuki Masaki to pole position, just 15 years of age. Won't be turning 16 until the end of August. Weaving his way through. Where did he finish yesterday? Well, he finished in 6th place, and that was not part of the game plan for Masaki, who's looked very comfortable so far this weekend. For the second day in a row, we've got a problem in the middle of the grid. It's Tom Edwards by the looks of things. No, it's not. I apologise. It's Dennis Unju. Now, he was taken down at the last corner yesterday by a wayward Bahat and Sofoglu. So poor old Unju, who really has been picked out by Hiroshi Oyama as one of these aggressive Turkish twins. There's two of them in the field, and he's one of the youngest riders in the field at just 12 years of age. Unfortunate start for him. Let's hope he can start from the pit lane. Here we go then for race 2. And away we go. Clean start for everybody on the front row of the grid. Excellent start though, 4th place for Yamanaka. And don't forget, he finished 2nd yesterday in the first race. 13 laps ahead of them. They've got to navigate their way around these first and second corners cleanly. You get a concertina effect here at Sepang. And once again, Ogura diving through to the front of the field. Will they all get through cleanly? They did not get through cleanly in this second race last year. There is contact in the middle. Amazing save. Well, they did not get through cleanly. That was an incredible save by that rider to hold on there. Let's see if we can pick up who it was in a moment. Through turns 3 and 4 for the first time. They're all still running just about. Yeah, and another great start from Ogura to take the whole shot as well from Yamanaka. Gerry Salim, championship leader, up in 3rd. But you're already seeing just how aggressive everyone is. Yamanaka straight down the inside into turn 4. And I think this is what we're going to see a little bit different today compared to yesterday. I think everyone's going to understand what the track conditions are actually like now, and understand how the track will react in a race. And we'll see an awful lot more aggression from these guys as they try and force overtaking moves. You see Yamanaka with the advantage. Big chatter there for Idaham Khairuddin through the right-hander of turn 6. Everybody away cleanly. Tom Edwards is down in 18th position. He's made a difficult start, and Dennis Unju was able to start. There it is on that graphic at the bottom. He's running around in 19th position as two more almost made contact, banging into each other again almost as they came through the double right-handers for the first time. Somebody just taking off a tear-off strip there in the middle of the pack. That's what you saw flying through the air out of the modified turn 9. A more gradual climb now. And what's different we're seeing today, Greg, is Kawasaki on the number 15 bike is actually in this lead group as well. He's currently sitting 8th in the championship, so actually has had a good start to the year, especially in Thailand. He was strong in Thailand, and now he's managed to get himself into that lead fight and in that lead group. Now he needs to stay there and just go with these guys, and hopefully that will pull him away from that what will develop into the second group. We're just seeing no jump starts as well, so everyone got away cleanly, and now we can just concentrate on a 13-lap race. Don't think there is any corner in the world where you've got so many different racing lines as turn 14 here at Sepang. That was it. 850-metre drag down to this modified turn 15. Off camber now, used to be completely flat. What's going to happen on the opening lap? Andi Izdihar there on the inside line, doing exactly what he did on the first lap yesterday, which is come up the inside line. Don't forget, he's won the last 2 races, including race 1 just over 24 hours ago. They come through to complete lap 1. 12 still to go, and look at this fight going on. Leader is Ogura, Yamanaka is second. Kuni's made a great start again, Steve. He's up to 3rd. Yeah, and you can see there Chantra in 4th, just in behind Kuni on the number 18 bike. Again, just putting himself into those right places. We've said it a few times through this season already, Greg. Chantra is one of those standout riders just for his intelligence on the bike, and he just seems to always ghost his way through the group at the right time. Looks like he's a big talent in this category. At the moment, you're watching a 12-rider group here, locked together at the end of lap 1, separated by just 2.2 seconds. Ikmal is 13th, Sofoglu is 14th, Liam Sekonsikul is 15th and in the points.
Yeah, we saw Yamanaka try and make the move into turn 4 last time around. He got great drive out of turn 3 that time and was able to comfortably get through before even the braking zone.
Sofoglu just lost a couple of spots. That is Sofoglu dropping down into 16th position. He's the second cousin of Keenan Sofoglu, who is here this weekend and starting on pole position for the World Supersport race, which is coming up later on this afternoon at 2, and then World Superbike race 2 at 4 o'clock. It's now 1 here in Malaysia. Number 12 now then hits the front. That is Yamanaka, as you say. Ogura is second, and Kuni, the Japanese newcomer this season, who's yet to win a race but has been very good so far this year, inside the top 3 again.
Yamanaka hasn't won a race this year either. He's at 3 podiums from 5 races, so he's consistently gotten himself into that lead group. As things were to stand, he'd make a big jump in the championship, obviously, if he can make a win today. But really aggressive rider, and as we said yesterday as well, Greg, seems to have good racecraft as well, and that's the kind of thing that a lot of the team bosses are looking for in this kind of championship. It's to see who's actually got the intelligence. I think everyone knows in terms of speed, you're probably going to be a couple of guys are going to be quicker than everyone else in this category, but it's who's actually the smartest rider. We see time and time again in World Superbikes, in MotoGP, it's the smartest riders that make the difference now.
Certainly is, and who's going to be the smartest down into this last corner 11 laps from now. Sofoglu's had a really difficult second lap. You can see down the left-hand side of your screen. He's now dropped all the way down to 18th position. The snake weaves its way across from the left-hand side of the circuit to the right. And look at Kuni, number 5, trying to just dive at the inside, thinking about second place. The exit is off camera, though. They need to be mighty careful coming out of there. I'm going to throw a shout-out once again, though, as I did yesterday, to number 23, Andi Izdihar. He sat exactly where he was this time yesterday, in 7th position, and just surveying the battle in front of him. Look at the way they all fan out down the main straight here. This track is 16 metres wide, one of the widest tracks in the world, of that there is no doubt. Incidentally, Sepang, the only track in the world at the moment to be hosting MotoGP, World Superbike and Formula 1.
And Asia Talent Cup as well, Greg. I think when you look at this group, as we said, people like Chantra, people like Izdihar, very smart racecraft. I think when you look at people like Ogura and Kuni, both of them are probably the most aggressive riders that we've seen in this class. Any time that there's a gap, they push their bike into it looking to get through.
Yeah, and they know there's a big break after this one as well, because the next races for the Asia Talent Cup won't be until they get to Zhuhai in China in September. Look at this, the grip they're finding around this newly resurfaced and newly profiled turn 5. It's doubled in camber this year. It's positive camber still, but it's gone up from 2.5 to 5%, and again using all of the curbs there was Ogura coming out of turn 6. These are the double right-handers of 7 and 8.
And in behind Izdihar we've got Ondu as well, so a really good start from the young Turkish rider. We're seeing a couple of guys like Ondu and Kawasaki stay close to this lead group in the early laps. They couldn't do that yesterday, and maybe they'll be able to do it now for today. But Ondu, Greg, as you said, Hirayama has signalled out the two Ondu brothers as being really good potential riders, very aggressive, and now this is where we get the first chance really this season to see what Ondu can do.
Do you remember, Steve, when we sat in the Circuit Cafe here on Friday and the Asian Talent Cup riders came in, they all lined up for the buffet, and there was one rider I pointed out and just thought to myself, this guy seems to mean business just in his general mannerisms, and it did prove to be Dennis Unju. Now that's not the Unju brother, the twin, who is up in the top 8 at the moment, because that's Kan Unju. His brother, of course, had those problems on the starting grid and he's down at the back of the field. But yes, both of them certainly pointed out by Hiroshi Ayama as well as two riders to watch. And as you said in the coverage for the Asia Talent Cup earlier this season, Steve, in Thailand, it's easier to tame a fast rider than to make a slow rider fast. But look how quick it's getting down into, and how close it's getting down into turn 15 again. We'll reel them off as they cross the line. We're coming through now to start the 4th of the 13 laps here in Malaysia. This is quite remarkable. We are still watching the top group. It's not 12 anymore. It's now 11 down to Khairuddin, separated by just 2.5 seconds. Look at them all.
The 4th lap of 13, Greg. I'm already exhausted just watching this.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? And the only way to really identify them properly are the numbers on the fronts of the fairings. There are the nation crash helmets signalled as well, as you can see they're marked with the flags, but the number, the most obvious way to identify these riders. Not always easy when you get a long shot and all of the riders fanning out across the track. 5 abreast is no strange sight in the Asia Talent Cup. So what's happening? Masaki's now hit the front.
Yeah, what we need to see here is if Masaki and Chantra can work together, because there is this big scrap behind them, and if you can work together, maybe you can open a tiny bit of a gap. We've seen how difficult it is on a Moto3 bike to open a gap in Sepang, but maybe now that we've got a lead group that's so big, you could end up with that infighting behind, just opening that gap a little bit.
Remarkable move on that form. Masaki going around the outside of Chantra, around the left hand of turn 5.
The one thing to remember around Sepang is it's such a wide track, Greg, 16 metres wide all the way around, and it does give that variety of lines.
It certainly does, and it's the optimum line they're looking for, of course. There's so many different racing lines, but it's the optimum line they're looking for in any given circumstance. That's more important than ever, of course, in a Moto3 race, let alone in the Asian Talent Cup. This is a little bit further back then. This is Idaham Kairidin, the fourth of the Kairidin brothers. There are 4 in total. They live only 10 kilometres from the circuit. Fami, of course, the oldest, racing in World Supersport, starting 5th on the grid later this afternoon. This is Idaham we're watching.
Yeah, so basically at this point now, Kawasaki, Sugawara and Kairidin have all given themselves a lot of work to do to actually catch back onto that lead group. They need a really good exit through turn 14 to have any chance, but with such a big toe for all of that group in front of them, it may be too difficult already to just latch onto the back of them, and we could easily end up with a situation where it's a lead group of 8 at the front.
Incidentally, Kairidin, one of just 2 Malaysians in the field. The other one is Izam Iqmal, who's running further back in 14th.
This is interesting. Look at Masaki all the way out to the left-hand side of the screen. Everyone else taking down that narrow line down the right-hand side of the screen. It's just interesting that Masaki, no worries about the slipstream right now. He's just trying to take his normal lines, whereas everyone else is trying to take just a bit of a defensive line and try and force everyone to go around the outside. And Masaki, no real concerns about that.
Missing person, Kazuki Masaki, last seen in Kuala Lumpur by the looks of things, down to the last corner there. But fastest lap of the race so far, 2:21. It was 1:49 to be precise. Still 9 laps to go, as you can see at the top of the screen. This is lap 5 of 13, and look what's happening. The group's decreasing. It was 7 yesterday. It started off as 12 in this one, down to 11. Now it's down to 8.
Yeah, well, you've seen guys do 121s right now, low 21s as well, and basically in behind this group they're already out to the 22s, so you are seeing this group now split, where number 5 at the back, Cooney, is the last man in this lead group, and then you've got a second gap towards Kawasaki, Sugawara and Kairidin's group. Great drive from Ogura though on the way out of 4 to take the lead. But look at Chantra, dives right down the inside of turn 5, and anyone that's watched the MotoGP races around here knows just how difficult turn 5 is. We've seen lots of crashes there. He's putting so much faith in that front end, but he makes the move stick.
Interesting, I saw a hand signal going out there as well as they came out of turn 4. It was a mistake by Masaki mid-corner by the looks of things. That's why he was slow on the exit, Steve.
Yeah, just a case of, again, you see this time and time again where it's easy to run yourself wide. We even saw it with a couple of the Superbike riders yesterday, just running wide through that corner.
Sorry to cut across you, but there was a huge moment there for Chantra under braking for turn 9. He did hold on to it. Somebody else running wide there in the back of the picture. Keeps it all together, lives to fight another day. But it was a big wobble for Chantra under braking.
And it looks like Cooney's now been dropped from this group as well at the back. We've got a leading group of 7 riders now at the front, and it looks like there's a bit of a gap now towards Cooney, Sugawara, Kawasaki and Kairidin. So maybe a mistake there from Cooney just to fall back down.
Is the start of the race, and away went Masaki from that pole position. It was a clean start for everybody apart from Dennis Unju, who'd had the problem but thankfully did manage to get away from a pit lane start. They went down into the first few corners for the first time. Number 2 is Masaki. He started on pole. Number 12 is Ryusuke Yamanaka, who finished on the podium yesterday, and he's looking to pick up his first win. And there was the moment. So one rider had a moment and it caught out some of those behind, and that was an absolutely remarkable save in the middle of turn 1 for what I believe may have been Dennis Unju with the number 7 there on the back of the crash helmet. Whoever it was a fantastic save. We come through to start lap 6 of 13, 8 to go, down to turn 1. And as you pointed out, we do have a gap opening up now. 1 second covering the top 6 at the moment, down to Izdihar, number 23, winner of the last 2 races and winner, of course, of the first race here yesterday afternoon. Incidentally, this race starting 1 hour later in the day. It kicked off at 1 p.m. It's just coming up to 1:15 now here in Malaysia. We turn 3. Turn 4, a favourite overtaking spot here at Sepang. There are several of them, of course. You think of turn 4, you think of turn 9, you think of turn 15, especially at the end of the lap.
And with the Asian Talent boys, you think of turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, turn 8.
And all of the straights.
These guys just, they'll put the bike down the inside anywhere when the gap opens, especially now they've got confidence in the track after racing yesterday. And that's why we're seeing this group change compared to what they were racing yesterday and how they were racing. If you remember yesterday, there was definitely a long period of feeling out the track, whereas now we're seeing overtaking moves every couple of corners for the lead.
It's happening further back, by the way. You were talking about Ogura and Kawasaki earlier. They're still 9th and 10th. Kyridan is 11th. Ardan Shah on his own at the moment in 12th place. Tom Edwards is 13th. That would be 3 points for the Australian. Then it's Ikmal and Niam Sekonsigal again on for a point finish after actually having a problem on the initial grid yesterday and failing to get away. He's in the points at the moment. This is the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 you're watching down to Cooney, separated by 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, we've seen Cooney now start to get back into towards this lead group again, so just the kind of case where with all this fighting at the front, the lap times come down a bit, and even if you made a mistake like Cooney had, you're able to get yourself back into that lead group. And you can just see him there on the number 5 bike, just off the back of this leading group of 6.
Don't forget, even though they're all so inexperienced, generally speaking, they do know Sepang very well indeed, because the test session happened here in February. It was a 2-day test on the full Grand Prix circuit. Chantra topped that one with a lap time of 2:17.9. The pole position time was about 3 seconds slower than that yesterday, but of course we do have a new surface down, which is an added challenge for the riders, but it's performing very well indeed. All of the Superbike and Supersport riders extremely positive about the new track surface here in Malaysia so far this weekend. Lap 7 and the Izdihar charge begins. He is in 6th position. He's up in the toe of Yamanaka as we come down into turn 1, but sensibly just staying there at the moment. Almost a touch between the two at the front, but now fastest rider on the track is Cooney, as you've pointed out. He's just now posted the fastest lap and he's 7th.
Yeah, Izdihar set the fastest lap, and then immediately Cooney's half a second quicker than that, so straight back into that lead group of 7 now for the win. And as we said earlier, Greg, it's these 7 guys that we expected to be up at the front again today. Impressive stuff from Andi to be able to get himself into 8th, and hopefully he'll be able to have a strong run through to the flag. He's shown good potential already this year, and it would just be nice now if he's able to bring that forward and have a strong performance in today's race.
Very, very tight again through turns 5 and 6. It'll be interesting to see how Gerry Salim deals with the situation as well. That's the cup leader, number 4, currently in 4th place, the 19-year-old from Indonesia. So one of the elder riders in the field. There he is, just sat in the middle of the pack there, number 4. These are the double right-handers. They come in succession, just alongside. They basically run around the outside of the last corner, which is now over to the left-hand side of the picture. Look what would happen at the moment if things stay like this. And that's the biggest if you've ever heard. But Chantra would be leading the cup again, 1 point ahead of Salim. They would both hit the century. Ogura would be 7 points behind and 3rd. At the moment, it is Salim with the advantage by 6 points coming into this one, and I stress it will be the halfway point of the season at the end of this race. Oh, Chantra thinking about diving up the inside of turn 12. You very, very rarely see a pass through there. Perhaps Marc Marquez would have something to say about that after what we saw last October. Through 14. Always intriguing to compare the lines they use on the run down this back straight. That's what a gap of 1.5 seconds looks like. Back to Kan Unju, who's running 8th. Then it's Sugawara, and Kawasaki is 10th at the moment. Always strange to say Kawasaki on the Honda is running in 10th position. Change there for 6th and 7th positions. Cooney's trying to fight his way through, but Izdihar is right in the mix as well, number 23, as they cross the line now. We're past half race distance, just 6 to go. Masaki leads, started on pole position. Let's try 5 abreast again, shall we? Yamanaka now quickest in the bunch as they come through to start this 8th of the 13 laps. There's no point attempting any heroics though at this stage of proceedings. We say it time and time again, it's so easy to lose the race, but you're not going to win the race. Another thing that was very interesting yesterday is that Izdihar was actually in the lead on the run down to the last corner. Usually you don't want the lead in a Moto3 race on that 850-metre drag down to turn 15 here at Sepang, but it did work for Izdihar yesterday. He put in a very good, but oh, contact! My goodness, turn 4, it's all kicked off. Masaki from pole is down. Ogura is down. And Ogura's bike is on top of Masaki's bike. Can they get back into the action? Get rid of that, very much says Masaki. Throws Ogura's bike off the top of his, but it's all kicked off, and this is going to really shake up the championship, Steve. Well, drama on lap 8.
Yeah, loads of concern there from Masaki after causing that accident for Ogura's bike. Definitely reminiscent of you can just see on the break in towards turn 4, just loses the front as he peels in, and then unfortunately for Ogura, just no.
Here we go. So number 2 up the inside, that's Masaki. Oh dear, the riders on top of each other, the bikes on top of each other. Ogura, who won the first race, of course, in Thailand.
Unfortunately for Ogura there, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, did nothing wrong, but now we see out at the front.
I think it's Chantra who's in the lead. Masaki's rejoining. This is a major development because he started on pole position, did Kazuki Masaki, and this has proven to be a really difficult weekend because he was only 6th in race 1 yesterday. Now he's going to be scoring no points at all by the looks of things. I would imagine Ogura has rejoined as well. He's been shown as at the back of the field at the moment in 19th place. You have to, oh no, he's not. And that's tears, you would imagine, for Ogura. Well, it's moments like this that you look back on at the end of the campaign and consider the lost points, and Andi Izdihar will be delighted in the nicest possible way because he failed to finish in the first race, and look where he is, he's now 3rd. So Chantra leads, 5 to go. Yamanaka is 2nd, Izdihar is 3rd, then it's Kuni, and Gerry Salim has now passed Kuni and is attacking Izdihar. This is lap 9.
Yeah, and at the start of today's race, Ogura was 9 points off the championship lead. Obviously now he's looking for best case scenarios, but a leading group of 5 now that are going to fight for the win. And you have to think, just looking at it, that right now Masaki just looking to do too much too soon in this race. There was still 6 laps to go. There was no need to force your way down through the inside into turn 4.
Well, these are the moments you learn from. This is more drama now at turn 15, and this is Kanunju who's gone down. Well, turn 15 is not proving to be popular for the twins this weekend because Dennis was taken out by Bahitin Safoglu yesterday. It's the classic turn 15 low side by the looks of things for Unju. Out he goes, and the 12-year-old having to sprint his way across the gravel, which has been modified this year. They basically put it all through a big industrial sieve, so the stones are smaller than they were back in 2015. So the Magnificent 7 becomes the famous 5. It's Chantra, Yamanaka, Salim, Izdihar, Kuni inside this leading quintet. Place your bets. You'd have to say Izdihar is a very strong contender, but this has put a very different dynamic on it now. There's not going to be so many riders around, and they can concentrate more on what's happening directly behind them and in front of them. Look at Izdihar, he's always very, very smart, isn't he? He's attacking Salim, who at the moment, of course, is the cup leader. If it stays like this, as we saw previously on the graphic, he'd be 3 points behind Somkiat Chantra.
Yeah, looking down through this order, you've got Chantra's won a race this year, Gerry Salim has won a race, Izdihar has won 2 races, Yamanaka and number 5 Kuni haven't won a race yet this season. So those guys are going to be looking to try and fight their way through to the front here, take their first win of the season. Everyone's looking at this now as an opportunity. We've seen how strong Ogura is, we've seen how strong Masaki is. Those guys are going to non-score. This is a chance to make up a lot of points. And for the championship leader, Gerry Salim, this is a key moment. If he can get onto the roster and finish 2nd or 3rd, it would actually be quite a good result for him. It allows him to continue to lead the championship. But right now you can see Chantra, he's got to the front and he's trying to stay there and just try and open that gap. Once it becomes a group of 5, it's easier to break away from it. It's whenever you end up with that group of 7, that big slipstream makes a big advantage for you as you close in on that group. And that's what we actually saw Kuni use really well whenever he set that fastest lap of the race to go half a second faster than anyone else. He's getting that toe down the leading straight. But you can see now the top 3 riders all underneath the fastest lap now. So Chantra, Yamanaka, Gerry Salim sets the fastest lap of the race so far.
Look at this, Riku Sugawara has just been passed by Bahitin Safoglu, by Idaham Khairuddin, the leading Malaysian, so they'll be delighted about that. Khairuddin now moves up into 6th place. Here is Ardan Shah, and he's running strongly as well, the Indonesian. Of course, many of these riders now profiting from the carnage we saw at turn 4, which incidentally happened so early, didn't it? But Ardan Shah here is now on target for 7 strong championship points for 9th place. Tom Edwards is in the top 10 for Australia. The second of the Malaysians, Iqmal, is 11th. Liam Seconsical was on for 1 point, but he's now on for 4 because he's 12th. Bahitin Safoglu needs a finish because he crashed yesterday. He's 13th. Masaki, though, trying to limit the damage. He's now recovering. He's 14th, and Yansin is 15th. What's happening at the front? Chantra still leads. Up the inside comes Salim, and he's gone 2nd. 3 to go next time they come over the line.
Look at the drive that Andi Izdihar has. Goes around the outside there, and he's just got so much confidence once he's on the gas.
You see Salim as well there, Steve, just signalling to Izdihar. He's almost saying come through, and he has come through. Interesting.
The key thing is that you don't want to allow number 18 Chantra to open that gap. Put the fastest guys at the front of this group, use yourself together and try and use the slipstream down the 2 long straights to make sure you can close that gap on the race leader Chantra.
That is smart stuff from Gerry Salim. I've been speaking to our colleagues here who are working in the Asia Talent Cup garage and working with all of the riders with the events they've been doing in Kuala Lumpur and the track action as well, of course, and they do say Gerry Salim, not only is he a very nice guy, he's also a very smart guy, and you saw that there. He's released Izdihar, and this is the reason, because the lead here for Somkiat Chantra, who won, don't forget, the second race of the season at Buriram by well over 10 seconds, is now almost 1 second. Look at this, number 2 charging through. This is Masaki, so he's taken another one. He's just taken Bahatin Sofoglu under braking for the turn 9 hairpin. He's up into 13th position now, and that would be 3 cup points. Could be 3 pivotal Asia Talent Cup points by the time we get to the season closer here in Malaysia in October. As I say, the next round is in China in September, and then the season closes come in quick succession, separated by just 2 weeks during the MotoGP triple header. One of them at Motegi in Japan, the twin ring circuit, one of them here at Sepang later in the year in October. Here's a great fight going on as well. Running wide is Arman Yansin, the only Indian rider in the field, and this is the fight going on for the last points in the race. They are side by side. Here in the meantime then is Masaki, and there's the confirmation that he has now moved up in front of Bahatin Sofoglu, whose number matches his position, 14th. And this is the corner where Masaki had all that drama yesterday, and certainly the rider behind him, Sofoglu, had all that drama yesterday because he went down on the penultimate lap of the race and wiped out the unfortunate Dennis Unju at the same time. Well, costly stuff for Masaki, I suppose the lesser of 2 evils, Steve, the fact he's still in the race. Look at this now, though. The lead is a full second. Chantra might have done a Thailand here.
I think for sure Chantra now has this race won as far as I'm concerned. He's opened up a big enough gap, and now everyone behind him is actually starting to squabble. We saw Izdihar run really wide through the double rights and out onto the exit curve, and it just shows just how hard they're pushing behind him. So he's practicing Gerry Salim try and get around the outside as he accelerates now through the turn 9 hairpin. But really it looks like for Chantra, just like what we saw in Thailand, he'll be able to make a break. You can see here just what's actually caused that gap to develop into turn 1.
Izdihar goes through, Salim is demoted, and there he is, number 4. Cup leader coming into this weekend. Cup lead is still at the moment, but only for another 2 laps. If it stays like this, he will be second, and he will be 3 points behind the leader Chantra. Remember, he was 3 points in front of second place when he came into the weekend. So they come down the back straight for the 11th time, just 2 more laps to go. There goes Chantra, Izdihar, Salim, Yamanaka, Kuni.
Yeah, definitely, I think Chantra's now got a big enough gap. I can't see him being caught, but you can see here this fight for second. Yamanaka now really throwing down the inside, and I think you're going to start to see these guys now trade a lot of paint in the next couple of laps. We're seeing them all be more aggressive today, and now with only 2 laps remaining, I think this trio fighting out for the final 2 places on the podium are going to get very aggressive with one another. And you can see here Gerry Salim taking the inside line at the middle of the track and forcing each rider to go around the outside of him. But you can see there Izdihar manages just to get through into second. But the key thing is, are any of these guys actually going to have enough pace to break away from the others? And I think they're not. I think it's going to come down to the last corner, just like we've seen so many times in the Asia Talent Cup. But it'll be a last corner for second, which is quite rare, as opposed to what we generally see for the win. But you can see here again, Chantra, just like he did earlier in the season, just checks out, takes advantage of other people whenever they start fighting, and has now opened up a lead of 1.5 seconds over the line.
That was a great Morrison-Sainsbury's manoeuvre, wasn't it, for Izdihar? 2 for the price of 1 down into turn 1 this time. This is the penultimate lap of the race. I was going to just say, while Izdihar was sat in 4th position, let's watch very carefully the sorts of lines he's using. He needs to be very, very sensible. Remember, Ogura is out of this race. Masaki is all the way down in 13th position in this race. If anything happened in front of him, he doesn't want to get wiped out by putting his bike on the outside. You'd expect him to be taking the tighter lines. At the moment, it's not necessary because he's gone through anyway, up to second. And look how the lead's come down on this lap. It's gone down from 1.1 to 0.9. Can they catch Chantra? I don't think they can. Unless he makes a mistake, surely they can't, but it has decreased in the middle part of the lap.
I was just about to ask you just to pass the salt there, Greg, because I think I might be eating my words pretty soon. This group has closed that gap right up on Chantra. I still think that there may not be enough time to actually get close enough to have a sniff for the win, but they're definitely closing that gap. They've pulled out 7/10 already on this lap on Chantra, so really impressive stuff.
But he's responding, he's eked it back up to 1 second, and Chantra, well, he's certainly trying. He put in his best lap of the race last time round. Here he is, his 2:20.3 lap time was a personal best. On the left-hand side there, you just saw the gaps, 12 seconds back from this 5 to Khairuddin, who's in an excellent 6th position at home in Malaysia. They'll be delighted about that. Izdihar, all of a sudden, on the penultimate lap of the race, finds himself 4th again, because Yamanaka's gone through into 2nd, Salim is down into 3rd, and what about Kuni? He's dropped back, as you can see there, the number 5 rider, the Japanese rider. He's dropped down into 5th position. That's the 13-year-old.
And you saw Yamanaka just force Gerry Salim to use all of the exit, all of the pit wall nearly, just to make that move. But now Andi Izdihar gets all the way down the inside, goes 4th to 2nd. That gap to the leader is now a 2nd. We saw fastest laps for all of the top 4 last time around, and Yamanaka set the fastest lap of the race. But I think they may have just given themselves a bit too much to bite off to be able to fight with the win for Chantra.
This is pivotal stuff. As you can see, Yamanaka fastest that time round. I don't think they're going to catch him either. Hopefully they're not the famous last words for Chantra's sake, but for Izdihar this is critical. This is the difference between 20 points for 2nd and 13 points for 4th. Those 7 points, how crucial might they be by the end of the season? Bearing in mind it was only a 3-point gap coming into the weekend. It would be a 6-point gap for Chantra if it stays like this.
Yeah, the only thing we know for sure is if Chantra wins the race, he leads the championship. Yeah. You can see here how hard Izdihar is pushing there. Again, all the way out in the curve, but he keeps his hand in and keeps the throttle open.
He's sensible. He knows that since the test the curves have been changed. They were very, very bumpy during the test in February. They've been modified since then. Plenty of tension then down on the pit wall. This is the last lap of the race. It's Izdihar 2nd. Number 12 is Yamanaka. Number 4 is Gerry Salim, who, for the moment at least, leads the cup. Half a lap to go. Kuni, by the looks of things, will have to settle for 5th position, so Yuki will be pleased to be inside the top 5, but he has dropped back behind this leading group. And that's something the mentors always say to the riders: concentrate on the distance, the time distance to the winner at the end of each race. Not necessarily the position. Be as close as you can every single time and chisel away at constant lap times. We're now coming into the penultimate corner. This is going to be easily, by the looks of things in the end, by over 1 second. A 2nd victory of the season for Somkiat Chantra, but who's going to get this 2nd place? Kuni will be 5th. Here's 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Izdihar, Yamanaka, Salim.
Yamanaka's going down the inside, just like we've seen before. He's really strong on the braking into this final corner. But Izdihar is too far back to try and make a move there. But Gerry Salim down.
Gerry Salim, we said they needed championship points, and has Izdihar gone through on Yamanaka? Yes, he has. Chantra comes through to pick up his 2nd win of the season. Congratulations, Somkiat Chantra. There's the slipstream. Who is 2nd? Who is 2nd? Yamanaka, he's been shown a 2nd, but it's 0.0. Kuni is 5th. Gerry Salim down at the last corner. Well, this has been a major, major race for the Asia Talent Cup in 2016. So they've all picked up spots now. More side-by-side over the line. Sugawara grabs that 5th place from Khairuddin, but that's 0.0 as well. Critically then, who's 2nd? Is it Yamanaka or is it Izdihar?
I think it was Yamanaka. It looked like he picked up the toe on the way, but you can see there Gerry Salim stomping through the gravel trap at turn 15. It's very easy to do that into turn 15 now, especially with the changes that have been made. Maybe he was a little bit too far over to the left-hand side of the track and just hits the off-camber nature of the newly reprofiled corner.
More fighting going on. Look at this. That was Iqmal pulling out from the 6th stream of Edwards. It didn't quite work. Edwards is 9th then. Iqmal is 10th. Niam Sakonsiko crosses the line. And here's Masaki in 12th place. And he won't know probably at the moment that it's Gerry Salim who's gone down at the last corner. Masaki in the end, he's down to 6th in the championship though, 41 points behind. Sofoglu 13th, and it's Unju. Yansin's gone 15th. India scoring a point on the last lap.
Yeah, and you can see Gerry Salim just falling further and further down in the provisional championship standings, and just a bigger gap. But Chantra now leading the championship by a point for Yamanaka. As we said, Yamanaka hasn't won a race yet this year, but 4 podiums in 6 races.
The last finisher, the 16th finisher there, was Law Kitchun, the Chinese rider, who finishes in 16th position. Well, what drama. That's the understatement there. But Somkiat Chantra comes through to take his 2nd victory of the season. Yamanaka, we are looking at, finishes 2nd for the 2nd time this weekend. So 40 points this weekend then for Yamanaka. Brilliant weekend for him. and Andi Izdihar there in third position. He was ahead coming out of the last corner, but Yamanaka got in the toe, pulled out and went through at the very last moment. And of course they've been practicing that in the test as well, which took place here in February. Brilliant last lap, it must be said, for Somkiat Chantra. He put in the best third sector of the whole race to ensure that he wasn't going to be caught. Now then, here's the incident for second, third and fourth, down into the last corner. Watch Gerry Salim. Goodbye front end, and it was curtains. Here we go again. Number 12 is Yamanaka. Izdihar is on the right. Gerry Salim on the left is about to depart. You could see the chatter. It was, oh, shake, shake, shake. Goodbye.
Yeah, just too aggressive to move across the track with the way the surface is now for Salim. And ultimately that's what caused the crash. You can see there, just the handlebar broken, so not even a chance of being able to get back on.
A bit of disappointment, doesn't even begin to sum up how he'll be feeling at the moment. We saw some major incidents in that race in terms of the championship then. Ogura fails to score, Salim fails to score, Masaki only scores 4 points for 12th place. This man, for the second time this season, scores 25 points, and of course these guys are delighted because their man Idham Khairuddin has finished in 6th place, and it gets better because both Malaysians are inside the top 10. Congratulations to Izam Iqmal, who finishes in 10th position, and well done Tom Edwards as well, because it was an unfortunate incident for him at turn 2 yesterday when he crashed out of 10th place through an unforced error, but he just picked up decent points there, 7 of them to be precise, for 9th position. Now, Steve, they were held before they came into Parc Fermé yesterday because of the investigation of the results at the last corner. No such problems this time round, and here comes Chantra, a rider we really need to keep an eye out for. Just 17 years of age. He'll turn 18 on the 15th of December. How long is it going to be, I wonder, until we see him in the Asia Talent team and perhaps making a debut in the CEV towards the end of the season? And of course there will be a CEV event because the season closer in Valencia comes in November, which is after the end of the Asia Talent Cup. We may well see a wildcard performance. It remains to be seen. So Chantra wins from Thailand, 17 years of age. Yamanaka second from Japan, 14 years of age. Izdihar third from Indonesia, 18 years of age. Here they all are, getting used to the procedure. Of course, it all includes putting the bike in the right place, putting the cap on, making sure you've got the right cap, making sure you're showing all the logos of the sponsors with the drinks bottles.
Yeah, and I think, again, you can see just how cool Yamanaka is there. He's on the podium again, but doesn't look like it's the biggest thing in the world for him. It looks like he's just where he expects to be, and really strong performance by him again, just to come through, finish second, and as we said, 4th podium of the year for him. But Chantra, star of the show again this weekend, and a really strong weekend for him, a strong performance today, and rightly takes over the championship lead. A 6-point lead now over Yamanaka in the championship, with Andi Izdihar 13 points behind.
That graphic at the bottom there, 211.6 kilometres an hour top speed, just proves that these riders may be inexperienced, but they're not messing around. These are Moto3 racing machines, but Chantra, very mature performance indeed, setting his personal best lap on the last lap of the race. It was a 1.5 second gap back to this man Yamanaka. I say this man Yamanaka, number 12, just 14 years old. Now the podium ceremony, of course, they make their way up the steps. Just at the back of Parc Fermé there, they'll go through the scrutineering procedure and up to the back of the podium. The flag's being prepared right now.
Yeah, and you can hear there, Greg, great atmosphere here this weekend in Malaysia as well. Big crowds coming in for today's race, and a good starting point for everyone just to see a really strong performance in the Asia Talent Cup race. But you can see there again just that replay of what happened with Masaki and Ogura under braking into turn 4.
Which of course proved to be effectively the race winning overtake, because that allowed Chantra to eke out an advantage. That was the end of the race for the erstwhile cup leader Gerry Salim. Even if he'd finished there at the back of that group in 4th position, it still would have been very strong championship points, 13 as opposed to the 0 he ends up with.
Yeah, uncharacteristic mistake from Salim there. We saw just his ambition get a bit too big with the line that you have to take into that final corner. Of course, Gerry, one of the oldest riders in this class, 19 years old, and I think that that was a bit more of the red mist of youth rather than anything else to try and just hold on to that podium spot.
Chantra winning, they're all just looking through the results. television screens as well here. We're at the back of the podium. You can see the podium itself is just off to the right-hand side. That's the back of the podium. Here it is on the right-hand side of the picture. Chantra, number 18. When he started racing back in 2011, started in the Honda Racing Championship in Thailand, grabbed a win there, finished 4th overall, stayed there in his home nation for the next 2 years. Didn't actually take a race win in 2012, but was very, very consistent and finished in the top 3 of the championship, as he did the next year, 2013. But he won 4 times on that occasion. And then in 14, expanded his horizons to the Asian Series. Finished 11th overall. There's Andi Izdihar. Yamanaka picks up 2nd place for the 2nd time this weekend. So both of those riders, Izdihar, who won yesterday, and Yamanaka, who was 2nd yesterday, on the podium in both races here. And here's Somkiat Chantra. Been a decent weekend, hasn't it? Started 5th on the grid, 4th yesterday, and winning for the 2nd time this season today.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of Thailand.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Celebration time for the winners.
Thai national anthem there, something we're hearing more and more of in junior motorcycle racing series at the moment. Slight slip off the podium almost there for Yamanaka on the left-hand side. He finishes 2nd. Izdihar on the right finishes 3rd. Very proud moment, not just for the riders, but all of their families, many of them here in Malaysia this weekend. Somkiat Chantra wins the 6th race of the season in the Shed Advance Asia Talent Cup. A 1.5 second gap back to Yamanaka, who's 2nd for the 2nd time in 2 days. Izdihar, win yesterday, 3rd today. Good weekend. Krini is 4th, Sugawara is 5th. Khairuddin to delight the Malaysian crowd in the top 6 from Kawasaki, Ardan Shah and Tom Edwards. Iqmal, the 2nd Malaysian, completes the top 10 from Nian Sukonsikol, who picks up good points this weekend for Thailand. 15th yesterday, 11th today. Masaki, big story there, all the way down in 12th position. Sofoglu scores, as does Dennis Unju. They collided yesterday. And then it was Yansin picking up a point for India. But some big news further back. Salim and Ogura failing to finish. And at the halfway point of the championship in 2016, it's Somkiat Chantra who leads. It's a 6-point buffer over Yamanaka, who's had a very good weekend. Then it's Izdihar, and then some way back is Salim and Ogura. And look at Masaki, halfway through, 41 points in arrears. "20 riders have scored points, though, this season, just to prove how competitive things have been. So let's just recall the best moments of race 6 of the season here at Sepang in Malaysia. Away they all went, and it was a clean start apart from this touch. And there's the results in the middle of turn 1. Brilliant save from Dennis Unju, and he kept going. But back at the front, we saw initially a leading group of 12 riders. It decreased to 11. And then it was a magnificent 7 again, as it was yesterday, with many leery moments along the way. But the big drama would come about halfway through the race into turn 4. Masaki went down and wiped out Ogura. Ogura failed to rejoin, Masaki did and would finish 12th. Into the last lap, Chantra had it won, but it was Izdihar fighting away with Yamanaka and Salim for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. But Salim lost control and crashed at the last corner. Chantra won, Yamanaka was 2nd, Izdihar was 3rd. All of the action continues in China in September, and we'll be live again with Matt Burt and Steve Day at Motegi in October.